Welcome to The Human Code, the podcast where technology meets humanity, and the future is shaped by the leaders and innovators of today. I'm your host, Don Finley, inviting you on a journey through the fascinating world of tech, leadership, and personal growth. Here, we delve into the stories of visionary minds who are not only driving technological advancement, but also embodying the personal journeys and insights that inspire us all. Each episode, we explore the intersections where human ingenuity meets the cutting edge of technology, unpacking the experiences, challenges, and triumphs that define our era. So, whether you're a tech enthusiast, an inspiring entrepreneur, or simply curious about the human narratives behind the digital revolution, you're in the right place. Welcome to The Human Code. Today we dive deep with Stephen McKeon, a seasoned IT and software leader with 30 years of experience in solving the hard problems, as well as being a champion for ethical behavior on blockchain, cybersecurity, and social media. Discover how Mac's journey of near-death experiences and spiritual growth has shaped his approach to challenges, the delicate balance he maintains between business goals and personal well-being, and his critical insights on mindful use of technology. Don't miss this episode, packed with transformative lessons and practical wisdom for tech enthusiasts and entrepreneurs alike. Tune in and get inspired. Pleasure to have you here today. First question for the audience is really, what got you to who you are at this moment?
Oh boy, pretty long journey. I gotta say, I feel like I lived a few lifetimes in this lifetime. I guess starting at 2 years old, I drowned in an in-ground swimming pool. I was resuscitated, and I'm still
Congrats.
here. And I'm happy for that.
Yeah.
And a few more times, I had a couple life-changing moments that really made me realize that the things you think are important are not, and you should be focusing on different things. And I've made a conscious effort to do that. So I try to be more mindful, enjoying the journey as opposed to just the destination, which taking the challenges in your life as being those obstacles are the way. And I'm quoting Ryan Holiday, but basically instead of resisting those challenges, actually embracing them. And then what is the lesson that got to be learned from them? Always enjoying that journey and not just being like, hey, I got to get here, I got to be this and not that. And that was a younger ego-driven mindset. Now I'm enjoying the process. And it's a much easier way of floating downstream and it's moving side to side as opposed to like paddling uphill. And it's been a paradigm shift in the way I do things, how I treat people, the way I do my business. And it's been nothing short than like astoundingly revolutionary in what you can see happen. So it's like the laws of attraction times 1,000.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And that's incredible from the standpoint of being an executive yourself. You're running a business, you're running multiple businesses, and keeping yourself present while enjoying the process of it. Yet we're small business owners, but at the same time, there's always that yearly targets that we have. There's the monthly goals that we set for ourselves. Like, how do you balance yourself between that push of accomplishment and also the love of the process?
It's also those WTF moments and how you handle them.
Yeah, that's true.
Because things don't always go so smooth. Being a business owner is something like I tell my friends that want to go into it. And I'm like, if you're just doing it for the money, go get a job. It is not about the money because there's going to be times you make a lot of money. There could be times you're going to lose a lot of money. And what I found for myself is I try to compartmentalize because, this is a 7-day-a-week job, 12 to 14 hours a day. I didn't know what I was signing up for, but now I'm unhireable. So I just have no choice but to move forward.
That's a fair statement.
I'm just being honest. I'm probably a horrible employee, even for my own company, but I'm an ideas person. I'm a good connector. I see things differently. So I do have value, but my value is not as much in the trenches on a day-to-day. It's different types of things, but I enjoy the freedom it brings, but the responsibility, it could be crushing. There's been times you wish you didn't have to sweat payroll. It comes every 2 weeks. The more staff you get, the bigger that gets. And you just get comfortable being uncomfortable. I guess it's a good way of looking at it and how I see it. I used to see challenges as something as where I would get angry or upset. Now I see them as a challenge and saying, you know what, maybe there's a reason or a silver lining to this challenge. Let's see what's going on. And instead of the immediate natural reaction we all have is just to kind of go, why is this happening to me? And playing victim. I don't do that anymore. And if I do, as being human, I catch myself very quickly in the act. And one thing I've really learned through this spiritual journey I'm going through is we are not our emotion.
Yeah.
You're not sad. You're not mad. You're not who that identifies is, and they come and go like the wind and water. So just flow with it. Let it go natural progression, and then let it move on. Don't latch on to that negative things and keep thinking about it and perpetuating that.
I think there's two statements that come to mind, right? Like the reframe of why is this happening to me is why is it happening for me? And that kind of gives you the space to see that there is a lesson to be learned in some of these areas. And then the other point that you were bringing up about we're not our emotions. We are the essence that experiences the emotions, but we don't have to be associated with them in our identity. Like I find myself working on this. And if I say I am sad, saying I am happy is really easy to get attached to. But then if I say I'm sad, am I? No, the thing that I am isn't sad. Like I'm experiencing sadness. I'm feeling it. And then additionally, like I'm noticing that I'm feeling these emotions. That's how it plays out for me as well. Kind of coming onto the track of technology and this experience that you're going through, has there been any either tools or anything that you've seen or anything that you've desired to see in this space around helping you on that journey to better understand yourself?
Most of the stuff I've been doing is a lot of audible books.
Okay.
And if I had to read a book, I would probably go to sleep at 3 pages, but I tend to do better just listening. So I go through all these. I've probably done 50, books in this last year. And it's been really craving this knowledge. For me, as somebody who thinks a little differently and probably is much more logical than most, this is revolutionary to me. I actually didn't know how to communicate effectively at all.
Yeah.
And I didn't have good emotional intelligence. And now I'm really been working on those types of things. And one of the things you mentioned in your statement there is attachment. Hold on 1 second. There's an
It's all good, man. We get an emergency guest on the show. Aw. No, man. And it's funny is I haven't seen him for what, like a year and a half now. And
he's huge. I mean, he's over 8 years old. He's massive. He's a handful, but I'm enjoying that process.
Absolutely.
It's a really cool age. Pretty soon he'll be giving me the Heisman.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm taking that in. I'm trying to enjoy 8 to 12, 13 years old while they have that open-mindedness a little bit.
It's fun because the first 7 years of your life, you're basically unconscious. You're just sitting in theta, absorbing everything around you. And now he's at an age where he's turned on, right? Like you're probably seeing much more of his personality come out.
Yeah, which we didn't.
No, exactly. It's like totally
you see the ego. You could see the ego mind at really full swing there.
Yeah.
Because that's when it's on. Because back then it was a survival tactic. If you didn't have your ego, you'd probably be dead. So it is a good, helpful thing. But I think as we gotten older in our society, as we hopefully evolved, that becomes less.
And this is where I would love to see technology, right? And this is like we're playing with AI in spaces is how can you use the technology that we have to essentially shadow yourself to better understand where your ego may be limiting you or the belief patterns that you have are holding you back from what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
And then additionally, it's a shame when you know the technology and you know what it could be used for, and then you see it used in like social media platforms to a way that it's like directing you and your attention, your energy toward things that are pure entertainment, or on the opposite side of it, eliciting emotions from you if you're not aware of fear, of anger, of these strong emotions. And that's really what the technology is doing because it gets engagement. And in that engagement
100%.
drives. And so we see this happening along different platforms. And I'm just curious from your standpoint, what you're seeing in regards to both the cybersecurity side of it, but also your spiritual aspect.
Very interesting question. As somebody who has an 8-year-old child who also uses social media, but these days I've been doing it a lot lighter. I've been going in and out when I need to, as opposed to getting stuck down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Because those algorithms are driven by getting people to view to the next screen. And unfortunately, the negative emotions, anger, hatred, they all are top of the hill for getting attention. The algorithms feed that to people, unfortunately, at least here in America. And I think there's a better way of doing that. Like even what I do, and I have a decent sized Twitter account and I have a good reach across the world. My goal with that account is most people like, oh, look how many number of followers I have and this and that. That might be important to some people, but to me, it's nice to know that I have enough people to care. But what I do is I do giveaways, and my giveaways are like, hey, go reach out to your loved ones and tell them that you love them. Reach out to your friend. Like I'm forcing them to do good things to win something where others are doing it to maybe get followers for an account or get you go do this marketing thing. I'm just purely doing it to spread good. And it's magic what happened. If nobody ever wants to be the first one. Give an example. I go to Wawa every day. Everybody's dragging herself in there, look horrible, trying to get the coffee to move on the next day. Nobody's really thinking about anybody other than themselves and their coffee.
Yeah.
What I'll do is I'll pay for that person behind me, and a small little magic happens. That person will pay for that person. And it starts a whole chain reaction, but nobody wants to be the first one. Why?
Uh,
So I try to do those types of things because I think deep down we are good, and it, as much as bad, but I believe good always wins out. And I just think going back to those platforms, they're just using those cycles in a negative way because it's profit driven
okay.
to make money. And if it wasn't to make money, and let's say the positive things brought out more revenue, they probably would do that. But unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the case.
It's a very fair point that we are in a situation where the world is very profit driven, right? It's a very quarter by quarter standpoint, but you just shared two different interactions in which you're using Twitter to help share those almost random acts of kindness
Oh, they
type of
absolutely
approach,
are.
right?
Yeah.
And then additionally, like how you operate at the convenience store of basically sharing the love kind of perspective, paying it forward
Now,
in some way, but at the same time, just
100%.
being a generally kind individual to those that are around you.
Maybe I'll inspire some others to do better. And we just need to be more mindful of each other. We're all here for a short amount of time. It goes much faster than most people think. And as somebody who has come close to beating the maker a few times, I don't think I'm going to get another pass like I have. So treat my day, it's my last. And the more that I give and help random people, I have amazing things happen in my life that I can't even put a pin in.
Yeah.
And I attribute to them as by the universe. By me giving and helping others, I think the universe has a natural equilibrium of kind of making, if you give something back, you're going to get some things in return. But you can't say, hey, I'm going to give back and expect a return. You have to be selfless in this area. And as somebody like myself who has come from absolutely nothing, dirt poor, almost died a few times, if I can be an inspiration to anybody to do a better job than them, I could be a good use case where even me as a kid, I was socially awkward. I'm dyslexic. I'm a little on autistic scale, diagnosed with ADHD before they even knew what that was. I had to find unique ways of getting out of those testing classes that weren't going to beat the test on a merit. This is where my hacking started. I had to figure out the algorithms, how they pick questions and compete a 30-minute test in 3 minutes. And that allowed me to leave types of classes. But I had to think about additional schooling is really good at making you a worker bee. I'm not really a worker bee. I can be, but I'm better at solving problems that are hard.
I got it.
And does that make sense? So I've had to always be on the edge and figure things out. And where everybody else was handed things, I just feel, you know what? Why not try to go ahead and start a business if you think you can do that? Or why not try to be a musician or something that a lot of people think about their passions, but most people are unhappy in their life because they never actually truly go for passion. Does
Well,
that feel right? Make sense?
yeah, it totally does. Now, what would you say actually gave you the courage to try?
Back against the wall
Okay.
and having no other options really. Have to move forward and basically razor thin on things, and where most people would probably quit. I guess I'm like Rocky down to the last punch, just don't know when or how to quit. And I don't know, I've been down to things where I would have $100 in my operating account that should have over 6 figures and sweating the next payroll run. And you know what? When I just trust in the universe and instead of me using my head, but using my intuition and my heart, might be at the last minute, but then something happens or it forces me to reach out to a vendor that maybe owed me some money. And, oh, by the way, could you get me taken care of here? Those types of things happen. And every single time it's always worked out. And even times when I was like losing my interest in the business and having hard times financially and, emotionally, I never really gave up. And every time, even when I tried to sabotage it, just as a human being, like sometimes you just try to wait for the two to drop, but you don't really do what you're supposed to do and even jeopardizes opportunities. It always seemed to work out.
Nice.
That's it. That's one way. But I think you have to have a good mind. And I believe in that process, extremely humbling. I learned a lot about myself in that hardships and finding out who I am and what I'm able to stand up for and know that I can stay down to the last punch. And even though at the time is probably pretty hectic and emotionally driven, I just stayed course and kept going as opposed to getting rattled, making mistakes, trying to do something stupid because I'm nervous about doing this. And I've had to do things where I put my house up for loans and stuff like that. And my wife would kill me if I lost the house. To be a grave in there before we got rid of the house. I'm just telling you. So I have no choice but to make that happen. Those types of things, it makes you drive forward. And I have a family here. I can't mess up for my family, that kind of helps me drive forward. And knowing that I can go through those hardships and then on the other side, you benefit from when it's really good, it is extremely humbling and fulfilling. Like when you get through that process and you made it and you don't have to worry about, oh my God, crap, how close we were. It's like a tight-wire act. On one wrong step in a couple inches the wrong direction, that could have been the end of it. And that happened multiple times. I'm still here.
I got to tell you, that is really inspiring because I've also been in that situation where you are down to the last few dollars in the bank account and you're wondering, where's the next opportunity going to come from? And there's all those questions that come about as far as, was this the right decision?
The right person.
Exactly. Am I cut out for this?
Syndrome, right?
Yeah. But what you came back to was like, all right, you know what? There's a knowing that it's going to work out. I'm going to learn a lesson here. And at the same time, something always comes to bat. I had a friend of mine go, you're doing a lot of worrying here. Have you ever not had the money? Has it ever not shown up? And I'm like, no, it's always something. It's always happened. Something.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And so it was that comment that basically gave me another opportunity to look at it and say, shit, okay, this is actually a space that we can create. And at the same time, my own personal development has probably been tenfold since starting businesses because of the amount of reflection that you have to take. As an employee, I could have a bad week and the paycheck still came, right? As a business owner, I could have a bad week and then that can turn into a bad month. And then that can turn into a bad quarter, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
But then you notice like how you're almost behaving in situations when you show up with a bad attitude and like when I had nobody else to blame but myself. So it was one of those aspects. Now, how do you feel that like technology today, like what we have for social media, what we have for in the enterprise, is it helping? Is it hurting the individual? Or like, where are we seeing the benefits? Where do you think we have opportunities to grow?
Oh, man. Honestly, as somebody who is on social media quite a bit, and I try to limit my own time, I feel in a lot of senses, the objectives of these platforms are not driven for anything good. They're driven for profit and basically to help a few people have points of views or objectives or ways of thinking in a certain way. Because these algorithms that are in there are driven by those types of things that help them be more profitable.
Yeah.
But as a human being, I think they're extremely corrosive. They have the addictive qualities and they could be used for good. I guess one thing that's come up a lot in the news lately is TikTok. And me personally, as a technologist and a cybersecurity expert, we recently ran into an issue where the TikTok data was being sent to China. Probably shouldn't have been doing that. And also the TikTok version that we have in America is much different than Douyin, the Chinese version. To put it in perspective, that version is very mindful, educational, more inclusive. And it just brings out the good qualities in human beings where the version in America, I can't say that is like that. I call my friends TikTok zombies. They'll be there for hours on end. They'll be in the corner just swiping and they don't even know it. The world disappears around them. They don't even remember the videos they'd watched. They're more depressed and not in the right mood afterwards. You just don't know if that's healthy.
Everything that you just described doesn't sound healthy at all. But I do like how essentially China has a version of TikTok, and you're saying that the content that's promoted, the content that's actually raised up, that probably aligns with the person's interest as well, because they
It
still
does.
want to keep that attention. But at the same time, that content is meant for mindfulness. It's meant to create like a social,
Eh,
cohesive thing. Whereas you're
Right.
talking about the TikTok zombies that are sitting there just scrolling, like we're almost just getting fed entertainment after entertainment to numb people.
For dopamine hits,
Yeah.
and what's really crazy on TikTok is really reduced our attention span. It used to be like 30 seconds for a video would be a sweet spot, but as somebody who built a good following, I was a big believer in TikTok when it first came out. It was a great platform.
Yeah.
And so I learned a little bit about the inner workings of it, that 7 seconds is the sweet spot now. So it's like, we just talked 7 seconds here right now. How can you really get anything meaningful in the 7 second clip?
No.
And that's the sweet spot. That's what you're going to get, a quarter million views on something. And even me just doing some stuff that the algorithms pick up on stuff for good or bad, but the ones here in America seem to be on the negative line. I just think we could do better as a society and as human beings to honestly, I think our space brothers and aliens that are up there are waiting for us to wake up. They see us as cavemen whacking each other over the head. We're supposed to be working together. There's a thing called when things synchronize, like when you're in a group of people, they're all like minded, like in music, when that synchronicity happens, that's
Yeah.
magic. Like everything from your heart rate to your breathing, we sync. And that collective mind and consciousness, I think, can do massively good things. But no, we're driven to be more individual. We're driven to be hating, being competitive. It's a zero sum game. You win, I lose. Nobody can't be a win. Why can't that be the case?
That's a good way to go. And I guess
You know,
one of the other questions that I have for you is what you and I we've been in our careers, adulthood for the last like 20, 30 years now, right?
I'm still growing up.
And I was telling a friend, I was like, I still feel the same age, right? I don't feel
Right.
like I've aged at all. I see the body has gotten a little bit older, but there's still that same essence inside that just seems timeless. But like for our audience that is making a new transition, they're finding new careers or like they're coming into the workforce, what advice would you give them as far as like where we're at with this new technology innovations that are coming at us every day?
Just be careful and mindful of what you're getting into. And if you find yourself spending much more time on this than maybe an hour or so a day, there you might want to take a little minute break. I've talked to even a lot of parents about this TikTok stuff, and when they limit the screen time, it makes a huge difference in the child's behavior. They're still developing.
Yeah.
I just say try to have some self control here because at the end, those things are really easy to get addicted to. And they don't always bring out the good qualities. And there's a whole life out there of human beings and people in this world that I would definitely encourage you to go see because just looking at something on a screen is not like experiencing in real life. And talking to a human being and looking them in the eyes and actually having a real conversation is important. Where unfortunately in our world, we both know it. We'll have developers and they'll be on their phones texting each other 3 feet from each other. That's just not a good thing. And we're taking away millions of years of communication that we built up as human beings. And now we're using an app that's filtering your voice, also recording it, using it against you, using algorithms to learn from where you are and feed you things that it knows you're going to be easy to manipulate. Do you think that is a good thing? So I just don't. I've been more limit, the better I feel, honestly.
Yeah. And I think I'm definitely agreeing with you, right? Like I've got to be very intentful when I get onto these apps,
Yeah.
right?
Not easy
It's not
because
easy.
they
No, because it's designed to hit you. It's designed to give you the dopamine. And then you and I both have the ADD mind that just loves dopamine.
right.
And so from that standpoint, like I have to be aware of what I'm deciding to do when I go into these apps because there is a purpose and they can actually help to foster communication between people, to reach out, to bring a new perspective into your life. But then additionally, they could just be entire time sucks that do not help you with your attention span. They don't help you with actually growing in any way, but they are a distraction to your life. So I got to say, thank you so much for sharing that. I like
Yeah,
really appreciate it. I think that it's a really core thing for people to understand is to be aware of what they're using these apps for, but also to create preference to maybe use them to bring you out into the real world, to go experience things. I know my Instagram, I have a saved folder of all travel experiences. And so when I'm looking at
Oh,
planning next trips, like I go in there and I'm like, oh yeah, this was something that drew my attention. So like creating shared repositories for me and my friends to say, these are the things that we want to
mm,
go experience.
that's pretty cool. That's something I haven't done as much traveling, and there's some parts of the world I'd like to go see, but unfortunately, they're probably not good places to see at the moment. I feel like I getting older here, there's a lot of things on my bucket list. So, I think that's important to go and see different cultures and see different parts of the world and see how here in America, we don't realize how lucky we are in a lot of senses, even though there's a lot of bickering and a lot of negativity. But I think a lot of this is fed on social media
Yeah.
for agendas. We really got it great. You go to the Philippines and see people living in bamboo huts and cooking food by the fire. We call that somewhat camping. That's how they live. And going in, even as somebody who's traveled in Europe, like even like if somebody at places Europe, which is pretty high tech for parts of the world, there's certain things that irritate you as an American when I don't combine their hot water and cold water. They don't put ice cubes in drinks. We don't realize how they're like rich people problems. They see us for the rest of the world that we have here, or at least people get stuck in that little circle of, oh my God, this is so important. Or, oh my God, my friends have this. I got to have it. It's very materialistic.
Yeah.
And I think once you see other parts of the world and how people are, and generally, I love the vibe in Europe. Everybody's really friendly. It's more inclusive here. Hurry up and get out of my way.
It's a very true statement. I do like
Right.
city design in Europe tends to be more people centric, whereas United States tends to be a little bit more car centric in
Right.
regards. But at the same time, I think what you're highlighting is if we get out into the world and we experience the world, we can decide the things that we like. We can see how somebody who is just like us in the sense of a human, they may do things a little bit differently. And then we can bring back the stuff that we like. And we can also share the things that we like about our own culture with them as well. The more is an offer, not an obligation to use it. But like I know in my travels and being in like Africa and also Southeast Asia and seeing the difference of there's so many materialistic things that we have here, whereas there they may not have that, but they had such a strong either family connection or community connection that
Right.
was made up for everything and just led to really richly lived lives in their
Yeah.
communities. And that was just really nice. Stephen,
Right.
sorry, Mac, I got to say, I like really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. Is there any place that our guest or audience can reach you at if they're interested?
I mean, my biggest one is on Twitter,
Okay.
and that's you can reach me at handle MacGyver Media, which is my personal handle. We have MacGyver Tech and Mac Nerd as well, but that's the one I'm always on, and then find me there the most. You also can find me on LinkedIn. It's not too hard to find me. I'm the head nerd in charge. You can find me everywhere.
I love it, man.
Oh, yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. You made me feel much better today. It's been one of those days. It's a cloudy day. Wasn't really feeling a whole lot, so thank you for charging me up, bringing my energy level up, and it's always a pleasure.
Absolutely, my
Chat.
friend. Greatly appreciate you.
Me too.
Thank you for tuning into The Human Code, sponsored by Findustries, where we harness AI to elevate your business. By improving operational efficiency and accelerating growth, we turn opportunities into reality. Let Findustries be your guide to AI mastery, making success inevitable. Explore how at findustries.co.